Hi everyone, I'm Anila Dami and welcome to my live Insta video today. Today I'm going live about Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme for this week is kindness. If this is the first time you're tuning in to one of my live videos, then I'm a journalist and presenter, and I specialise in news and current affairs. And I'm really passionate about giving people a platform for their stories, supporting causes, and most of all, informing you, keeping you engaged and entertained. So throughout the coronavirus pandemic, I've been trying to bring you live videos that I think will help you, along with, of course, doing the news reports. And as it's Mental Health Awareness Week, I wanted to bring you somebody who I think will really help you when it comes to life after the coronavirus. We focus lots on the kind of cycle people experience and go through during the coronavirus pandemic, starting from kind of feeling grief to feeling acceptance and to where you might be today. But we haven't really talked about life after coronavirus. So as the theme for Mental Health Awareness Week 2020 is kindness, we are going to be discussing kindness after coronavirus. And I have joining me today Mandeep Jassal from the Priory Group in Dubai. Mandeep is a behavioural analyst in Dubai, but she's also worked in the UK for the Priory Group in Woking and Chelmsford as a CBT, cognitive behavioural therapist, which is the official therapy recommended by the UK government. Hi Mandy.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being with us today. And how is it in Dubai?
It's boiling hot. I've got the air conditioning on. It's been really weird. I mean, it's obviously the situation for everyone because we are all in this together. That's the kind of hashtag going on. But yeah, when we just go for kind of casual walks in the evening, everywhere is completely quiet. And I mean, this is obviously a tourist country. So without tourists, it feels like a real sense of community because we just see families, kids playing. So yeah, unused, but what can we do? We need to ensure that we're safe, and I'm really pleased that we finally organised this talk as well, because we kept saying, oh, we've got to do a talk together, and perfect timing with mental health awareness.
Exactly. I think it's the perfect timing, especially because lockdown is now being eased in many places around the world. And here in the UK, people are going back to work now, but they're facing that kind of day-to-day routine that they're not used to anymore because the tubes are packed, yet we're being told to social distance. Working however many hours a day, from waking up late and literally moving from your bed to the living room to work, all those things can take a toll on your mind and on your body. And so I really wanted to go through for people life after coronavirus and being kind in a coronavirus aftermath. So I was just saying to everyone watching that we've spoken about the cycle that people go through during the coronavirus pandemic, grief, denial, and the move to acceptance. But let's talk about being kind after coronavirus. So one thing that people might be experiencing when they are out and around people is anxiety. There might be anxiety when they're on the tube with people and it's packed and they want to say, move away from me, and we need to keep the 2 meter distance. And before we talk about the kind of interaction with others and healthy communication with others, what do you do for yourself if you're feeling that anxiety?
Yeah, it's a good question. Lots of people are obviously feeling really anxious right now, and everyone, I'm sure, they're trying to follow the guidelines as best as possible. Washing your hands, sanitizing, wearing gloves if you're out doing food shopping to keep safe and hygienic, wearing your mask, social distancing. But I think, as with anything, anytime we're adjusting to something new, that creates its own concerns, its own worries. So I think to some extent it is completely normal that we feel anxious about the situation changing once again. And it's what we do with the anxiety. So anxiety is really there to protect us. It's a healthy emotion. It's there to protect us from something bad happening. Anytime we feel anxious, we are fearing kind of the worst case scenario, a threat or a danger is going to happen. So it's there really as an emotion to protect us. We want to keep safe and do whatever we need to do to protect ourselves, really following those rules and regulations. But at the same time, it can end up hindering us if we're constantly worrying, if it stops us from actually going out and doing the things that we need to do, if it actually stops us from going into work, if we feel so anxious that we feel nervous to travel on public transport, for example. So I think anxiety can be obviously a helpful emotion because it's there to do good for us, to protect us, but at the same time, it can end up hindering us. And for those sort of situations, we need to think about, you know, what can I do? Can I go out with somebody with support? Can somebody go with me? That's from my family. If you're feeling really anxious, doing breathing exercises, so slowing down kind of all of that nervous energy, all of those worries. So focusing on our breathing, this is a really effective technique. I know it sounds like such a simple technique, but just focusing on our breath really slows everything down. And if we do this exercise properly, our brain can't do two things at the same time. It can't worry and be focusing properly on our breath. So if we focus our attention really on our breath, it slows things down. We feel more in control. So
and that's the same with panic attacks, isn't it? So if somebody was experiencing a panic attack on the tube, I mean, you can get really hot. It can be really kind of you know, a lot of heat that can cause your breathing to be affected. So breathing in that case as well is a good idea, isn't it?
Definitely. And I mean, that is one of the main techniques for dealing with panic attacks. A lot of people think that they're having a heart attack. They obviously have chest pain, heart palpitations, sweating. So a lot of the symptoms are very similar to experiencing a heart attack. But with anxiety, when it's in its extremist form, panic attacks, it's so important to focus on the breath. And I know it sounds really simple. There's no other kind of techniques. There's lots of other ways of managing anxiety as well, but slowing down the breathing helps us to feel much more in control. So yeah, so I think anxiety is completely normal for people to experience, especially kind of post-COVID as the lockdown restrictions kind of ease up. I think it's completely normal for people to have some anxiety. But I think if you're really struggling and you have an anxiety disorder, you're diagnosed with one, you know, reach out for support. If you have family members that understand your situation, take them with you, and kind of ease yourself back into socializing and the outside world again, even if it starts steps, you know, outside of your house. Or
I think that's lovely, especially because during the coronavirus pandemic, we've been with our family and friends so intimately, well, our family so intimately, or whoever we might be living with, for such a long period of time now, that actually it's quite a nice tip to say that if you are feeling anxiety, use the people who are around you to help you, because that's what we've been doing the whole time anyway. So it's kind of transitioning that kind of safety net of the people you've had around you into the outside world. So that's a lovely tip.
Even though we might be getting fed up of our family, it's completely normal to at times be irritated with one another. But I think, yeah, make use of kind of those resources. We have our family, we have our friends, whoever you have kind of around you. If there are people that you feel safe, that you can interact with, obviously according to the guidelines. But yeah, make use of that support network, whoever you can trust and kind of meet to help you ease back into the real world. And even if it's baby steps, you know, we can go to the end of your garden, going to the end of your road, taking something with you before you go to the town centre. We might break down that goal with, just going to the town centre for 15 minutes. And until you feel comfortable with that, then you can always come back home until you kind of, it's like you're building the comfort zone. Right now, the comfort zone might be small, but it's getting bigger and bigger as we kind of expose yourself to more and more situations. Yeah.
I think it will be really comforting for people to hear that it is normal to feel anxious, because you are going back. You might think that it's a normal situation that you're going back into, but it's not. Things have changed. Binti Period, the charity that I am proud ambassador of, has messaged and asked, how do you help someone going through a panic attack? Because nobody wants to hear, come on, breathe, it's going to be okay. And that's a great question, actually, because I mean, if you see somebody struggling on the tube or on public transport or out in, you know, in public, you've got that physical distance barrier anyway. But how do you help and support a stranger in that situation?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And obviously, it feels like it's really kind of diminishing somebody's problem if they're having a panic attack and you're not sure what they're exactly experiencing as well. You're not sure if they could be having a heart attack or something worse. But if it is a panic attack that you're noticing, if they notice that they're really panicking, they're experiencing feelings, symptoms of anxiety, then focusing on their breath is one of the single most helpful things that any person can do. And I know it sounds really simple, but in so much research, books that clients work on is focusing on their breath and really slowing everything down.
So just in case, our connection does keep breaking, I want to talk about people who are experiencing severe depression or depression at the moment while they're indoors, and when they go back into the real world, how to cope with depression, and when it feels like everything's just getting a bit too much, and or it's all just a bit too overwhelming.
Yeah. So the main thing I would say, if anybody actually has an official diagnosis of depression, anxiety, first of all, is to really seek support and the advice from your consultant, from your psychiatrist, from your take medication if you're taking medication or need to take medication. Receive the support from that professional. So that's but if you are not and you don't have official diagnosis, but you think that you're struggling with symptoms of anxiety or of depression, again, I really would recommend that you reach out for support, because there's lots of support out there. There are so many professionals who want to help, but we obviously can't do our job if people don't contact us and make that initial step. And the first step is normally the most difficult, where it feels so hard just to get to the open, but support is there. So if you have the diagnosis or you don't have one, I think it's really important to try and encourage yourself. Being compassionate and kind and having empathy for ourselves is so important.
I think that's really important when it comes to any feelings of anxiety or depression or mental health issues. Often we are extremely self-critical, or we dismiss our own feelings, even if it's just a voice in our head saying, why are you not able to adapt? What's wrong with you? Even kind of those kinds of thoughts. But I think often it is really a simple thing to say, what would I say to my best friend? And sometimes you just have to treat yourself like you are your best friend. So thank you for that tip, and I really hope that helps. And of course, as you said, if anyone is experiencing depression or severe depression, and they really should seek support, because it is really important to get that support. And the whole being kind to yourself, we've been kind to ourselves, now how do we be kind to others after lockdown? Because we've been around our family for a long time, or whoever we live with, our friends, and some people might experience short temper with other people, because they might say, you're not queuing up correctly in the supermarket, you're not keeping your distance, or it's that feeling, again, as you were saying, of safety. We're constantly trying to protect ourselves and feel safe in the environment we're in. So how do you propose, and just maybe some top tips, because the internet is cutting out, maybe some top tips on how to be kind to others?
I mean, kindness in general, we can demonstrate in so many different ways. And actually, the Mental Health Foundation has got a whole list of so many lovely suggestions, like sending a text message to a friend who is really struggling, sending a funny or cute video of a pet or a funny video to somebody, watching a film with a relative or a friend at the same time. So lots of things that we can kind of reach out and do, whether it's more voluntary work. We might help the needy, the more vulnerable kind of people who are out there as well, with buying food and things for them. So helping in whatever way we can. There's a lot of research with positive psychology to show that when we do things a lot for other people, it makes us feel better compared to buying things for ourselves. So Yeah, so doing things for other people really makes us feel good. And I
How
think,
do we do that when we're when we're social distancing after lockdown and we're back in the real world?
yeah, so I think continuing to reach out to people, um, organising time to see them, but being socially distant from one another is not quite the same. We can't hug one another or sit closely. We can't play Chinese whispers or whatever those things might have been before, but we can still be in one another's presence. And I think that in itself, that we have some social contact with other people, because as humans, we are social animals. We want to have that interaction, and face to face is different compared to it being kind of online. So I think with the precautions, do meet people, but as long as you're socially distancing, as long as you're wearing masks, as long as you're still sanitizing, washing your hands afterwards, I don't really see that there's any issues with this. But I think the main thing with kindness is, really normalizing and accepting the emotions that you're experiencing. And that might feel really difficult at the start, but I think reaching out to people that you trust, who you can meet with, who are in your family home, reaching out with those people for going out to the town centre, or especially if you're feeling very anxious. So yeah, but lots of different suggestions. And Mental Health Foundation's a great website. It's got so many lovely random acts of kindness that we can do.
Lovely. Well, Mandeep, thank you so much for your time. We are actually going to be turning to Twitter in about
Yep.
30 minutes to go live on there as well. But thank you so much for your time, your tips. And I think it would be so helpful what you've said to people, because I think that there are people who are experiencing mental health issues. They are feeling anxious, even if it's a minimal kind of fear or worry, up to the extent of feeling depressed about the situation that we're currently in and what life might be like. So, really, I hope that your advice has given people hope that they can cope with life after lockdown.
And I think really important just on that as well, for people to really limit how much they're reading, because the news is obviously available all the time. So we could be investing in our energy in just reading and reading constantly. So do try and kind of limit yourself to the amount that you're reading. Set a certain amount of time in a day where you'll read the news, maybe for half an hour or so. And after that time's up, really set that boundary. Otherwise, that information's available all the time. And it just feels like, there's no life beyond this virus. And I know we are restricted with what we can do right now, but hopefully as things ease, we can feel really engaged. It can feel like such a great time as well to be in line with what your values are. If your values are family and friendships and developing yourself in terms of your career or online learning, this can be such a great time to invest real time and energy towards things that are important to us. So I think set that boundary. There's information available a lot, but limit yourself with what you're reading. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, you're so right. It's been a time where we've had a lot of time with our own thoughts and selves, not just with the people that are around us. And sometimes those thoughts can be unhelpful. And hopefully, we've shown people how they can transition to helpful thoughts. But it really can be a time where you connect with yourself and are ready to go into the big wide world again, knowing who you are and more of who you are, and having that acceptance of who you are, and being able to live with yourself, which is so crucial to being your
Yeah.
best self or when you're around others. But Mandy, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We really hope you enjoyed it.